I've made the point already in this film and in the red court serve film as well, that the serve along with the return are the most important shots in the game. And I think players recognise that, I think we as coaches recognise that. But it's ironic that whilst we say that and whilst we believe that, our actions on court don't actually mirror that. And it's quite typical, I think, that the serve tends to get left a little bit to an isolated closed practice at the end of the lesson. And sometimes we wonder, I think, why the ground strokes are so much more developed in match play than the serve. And quite often it's typical that the serve on the orange court as well as on the red court are maybe 6 months, 9, maybe even 12 months behind in their development compared to the ground strokes. And there are simple reasons for that, and I genuinely believe we just do not practice the serve enough. So let me just tongue-in-cheek give you an example of what I suspect is quite a common occurrence. And if you're guilty of doing the same thing, let me first of all say that I've done it too. So I'm not trying to paint a picture here where I'm perfect and you're not. I think this is just a genuine sort of illustration of what tends to happen quite often in tennis lessons around the world. So, Harry, I'd like you to serve, please, from the right court. Off you go. So I'm watching Harry serving here, and I'd be throwing out various technical points. But the key thing here is that this is a isolated practice on the serve. So if you watch what Harry does, whilst he might be trying quite hard to address some of those technical points, continue Harry, is that as soon as he's hit his serve, he turns away from the court and he starts to look back at me. So what we're not doing is training what happens immediately after the serve. I'm not keeping him match sharp here. In fact, I'm actually, in its worst cases, I'm actually training the wrong things, because you might see a player hitting the serve and then actually turning round to either receive a ball from me, the coach, or to get one from the basket. So we're not training what happens in match play. So this time, Harry, I'd like you to do it one more time, but I'd like you to get yourself ready as if you're about to play a ground stroke. Are you ready? That's good. And now you can turn around and you can get another ball from me. But quite often we create that situation because we are positioned behind our player with the basket. So I'm going to show you an alternative solution here, which will help Harry to serve with the technical point that we might choose to be working on, but also to connect that serve with the ground strokes. And there's no reason why, whenever Harry is starting a rally, why he couldn't serve. And that in itself would mean that Harry would get an awful lot more serving practice than if we just left the serve to the last few minutes of the lesson. So the aim of this simple drill here is to allow Harry to be able to follow his serve with the right reaction so that he can then shape up for the ground stroke. So I'm going to start off positioning myself inside the court. You might think it's slightly dangerous, but I'm slightly off to the side, so we're okay. And he's going to hit the serve. We're going to ask for him to hit a wide serve, so a building serve, which would then result in him potentially getting a slightly weaker return. And I'm going to ask him, just for my own safety's sake, to be able to hit the return back the same way as the serve, as if he was hitting the third shot back behind where the return has just come from. Are you ready, Harry? Okay, so off you go with your serve. Okay, and again. So make sure you get yourself nice and steady, nice and ready. Let's just move this ball out of the way here. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Now in another film we might be working on ground strokes on the orange court, and one of the things I'd be impressing upon you there is the importance on the orange court of being able to develop higher contact points. By now most of the players are probably using a semi-western grip, which will allow them to meet the ball that little bit higher. And if he's able to hit a building serve out wide here, then it makes sense that he's able then to come up the court and take the ball that little bit earlier to deny time to the opponent. So if we were working on the ground stroke element of this drill, I'd be wanting Harry to make sure that he takes the ball at chest height or even shoulder height to be able to take advantage of the opening that he's created. On another serve, it might be that actually the return pushes him into a more defensive situation. Take the ball, Harry. So this time I'm going to feed the ball to you and it's going to force you back into a more defensive situation. So I might even feed the ball behind the baseline. So you're going to have to come out of your serve, get ready, get balanced, move back to play your ground stroke. Are you ready? Off we go. And then back into the court. Okay, let's do it one more time. Let's remember to recover after you've played your forehand. Okay, so you'll move back, play the defensive forehand, then move back in. And back in you come. Good boy. So we can use the hand feed in this situation as a way of connecting the serve with the rest of the game, of the ground strokes. And I think sometimes that doesn't happen enough. I see a lot of serving in isolation, and it might have a technical purpose, but I fear sometimes that we might be missing the key goal of the serve, which is to then be able to try and capitalize on a building serve by hitting an aggressive ground stroke afterwards. It might on occasions be that we have to practice defensive ground strokes after the serve. And I think that's something else we don't practice enough a lot of the time. It's important for kids to be able to learn to defend. So here with this hand feed, we can pretty much simulate whichever situation we want with the return. Whether it's a weaker short ball for Harry to attack, or whether it's a more offensive return where Harry has to back away from the baseline.